The detective's flashlight cuts through my car window at 3:00 a.m., jarring me awake from another nightmare about losing my kids. My back aches from sleeping curved around the steering wheel. And for a second, I forget where I am. The abandoned Target parking lot off Highway 22. Right, month 6 of living in my 1999 Ford Explorer. John Walker. The detective's voice is professional but tense, like he's approaching a wild animal. I squint against the light, my mouth dry and tasting like yesterday's coffee. "Yeah, that's me." My voice comes out rough, scratchy from another night of breathing recycled car air. He steps back immediately, and I hear the crackle of his radio. "Unit 23 requesting immediate backup at the Highway 22 target. Subject confirmed." His hand hovers near his weapon, not touching it, but ready. "Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle slowly. Keep your hands where I can see them." My heart starts racing, but after everything Judge Edward Collins has put me through, I'm almost expecting this. Another false accusation, another setup. My ex-wife's father has been systematically destroying my life for 6 months, so why not add a middle-of-the-night arrest to his masterpiece of manipulation? "Officer, whatever Judge Collins told you, it's not true," I say, opening the door with deliberately slow movements. "I haven't violated any restraining orders. I haven't been near Karen or the kids." Detective Anthony Reyes, according to his badge, watches me with an expression I can't read. He's about 45. Hispanic, with the kind of careful eyes that have seen too much to trust easily. "Sir, this isn't about a restraining order." The cold November air hits my skin, making me realize I'm still wearing the same flannel shirt from 2 days ago. I probably smell like motor oil and desperation, not exactly the image of stability I need to project right now. "Then what's this about?" I ask, standing beside my car, hands raised slightly to show I'm cooperating. 2 more police cars pull into the lot, their lights painting everything in alternating red and blue. Officers emerge surrounding me in a loose semicircle. This is serious. This is more than Edward's usual harassment. Detective Reyes pulls out a tablet, the screen glowing in the darkness. "Mr. Walker, I need you to look at something." He turns the screen toward me, and I see fingerprints, 2 sets side by side with matching points highlighted in green. 3 hours ago, we ran your prints through a new federal database. Cold cases, unsolved crimes, the works. My prints. When did you get my prints? Your DUI checkpoint last month. You weren't drunk, but we run everyone through the system now. New policy. He swipes to another screen. Your fingerprints match an unsolved case from 1993. The world tilts slightly. 1993. I was 18 years old in 1993. I was working at my Uncle Ray's garage learning to rebuild transmissions. That is where this gets complicated, Reyes says. And there is something in his voice now. Not accusation, but genuine confusion. The prints match a suspect in a bank robbery. First National Bank of Fairview. $5 million vanished without a trace. The only evidence was a partial print on a safety deposit box. Detective, I have never robbed anyone in my life. Check my record. Before this divorce mess, I had never even had a speeding ticket. He swipes again, and what I see makes my blood turn to ice water. It is a driver's license from 1991. The photo is grainy aged, but the face staring back at me is unmistakably mine. Same strong jaw, same deep-set eyes, same scar above the left eyebrow from when I fell off my bike at age 7. But the name reads Thomas Walker Sr., born 1941. That is impossible, I whisper, leaning closer to the screen. I was born in the 70s. According to our files, Detective Reyes says slowly, like he is trying to make sense of the words himself. Thomas Walker Sr. died in a house fire decades ago, long before the bank robbery his fingerprints are connected to. The parking lot suddenly feels too small, the circle of officers too tight. There has to be a mistake. Someone mixed up the files or the prints or something. That is what we thought Reyes admits, until we pulled the death certificate and the coroner's report and the funeral records. Thomas Walker Sr. was cremated a few days later at Fairview Memorial Cemetery. So you can understand our confusion, Mr. Walker, when a dead man's fingerprints show up on a bank robbery 2 years after his death. And those same prints belong to a man sitting in front of me right now, very much alive. 6 months ago, I owned Walker Auto Repair on Cedar Street, right between the bakery that made the whole block smell like cinnamon rolls and the hardware store where old-timers gathered every morning to solve the world's problems. 23 years I had been there building something real with these hands. The shop had 4 bays, 2 hydraulic lifts, and a reputation that meant people drove from 3 towns over when they had engine trouble. My son Alex had just turned 19, home from his first year at community college, where he was studying mechanical engineering. He had grown up in that shop, could diagnose a misfire just by listening, knew the difference between a CV joint click and a wheel-bearing hum before he could legally drive. Megan, my 16-year-old daughter, she was different. Honor roll student debate team captain, already talking about law school. She would sit in my office after school, spreading her textbooks across the desk I had built from an old Ford truck bed, arguing mock cases with herself while I worked on invoices. Karen and I had been married 18 years. Met her when she brought in her BMW with a mysterious rattle that turned out to be a loose heat shield. She laughed when I fixed it for free. Said honest mechanics were extinct like dinosaurs. We were married 14 months later in her parents' backyard. Judge Edward Collins presiding over the ceremony with the same authority he wielded in his courtroom. I should have seen the signs earlier. The way Karen's credit cards were always in her maiden name, Collins Walker. The way her father would stop by the shop unannounced, walking through my bays like he was inspecting a property he planned to acquire. The way Eleanor Karen's mother would sometimes look at me during family dinners with this strange sadness like she knew something terrible was coming. Eleanor died 5 years ago. Cancer took her quick 3 months from diagnosis to funeral. She left Karen a storage unit in her will. Specifically stated I was not to have access. Family heirlooms, Karen explained. Mom's wedding dress photos, things from before I was born. Too painful to sort through right now. I never pushed. Grief deserves its privacy. The divorce papers arrived on a Tuesday. I was under a Camry changing oil when Karen walked into the shop wearing a suit I had never seen before, flanked by 2 lawyers who looked like they billed more per hour than I made in a week. "It is over, John," she said, her voice cold as winter steel. "Do not make this harder than it needs to be." The accusations started immediately. I had anger management issues, she claimed, though I had never raised my voice to her in nearly 2 decades. Financial instability, despite the shop's books showing steady profit for 15 years straight. Emotional unavailability, which seemed rich considering she had been sleeping in the guest room for the past year, claiming my snoring kept her awake. Her father orchestrated everything like a conductor directing a symphony of destruction. Every judge we faced was his golf buddy. Every court-appointed evaluator owed him favors. The custody hearing was a massacre. Karen's lawyer, one of Edward's protégés, painted me as an unstable mechanic who came home covered in grease, too exhausted to engage with his children, too volatile to trust with their well-being. Mr. Walker raised his voice at a teacher conference, the lawyer stated. Though what he did not mention was that the teacher had accused Alex of cheating when he had actually been tutoring other students. Mr. Walker missed 3 of Megan's debate competitions. He continued conveniently omitting that I had been at the hospital with my mother during her final days. Judge Edward Collins sat in the gallery during every hearing, his presence a constant reminder of who really held power. The presiding judge, Judge Stephen Morgan, had been Edward's roommate at Yale Law. The custody evaluator, Dr. Linda Marsh, had her son in Edward's firm as a junior partner. The guardian at Liam, appointed to represent the kid's interests, had vacation photos with the Collins family on his office wall. I lost everything in 3 months. The shop went first leverage to pay for lawyers who seemed to bill me for breathing. The house followed awarded to Karen, along with alimony that exceeded what I could make in 2 lifetimes. My tools collected over decades were deemed marital property and sold at auction. I watched strangers bid on the torque wrench my father gave me when I opened the shop, the diagnostic computer I had saved for 3 years to buy the toolbox Alex had helped me restore when he was 12. Now I sleep in this Explorer shower at 24-hour Fitness until my membership expires next week, and eat 1 meal a day at Betty's Diner, where the coffee is strong and the sympathies quiet but real. Detective Reyes's hands shake slightly as he enlarges the photograph on his tablet. The driver's license fills the screen, and I can see every detail now. The face is mine, but weathered differently, aged by experiences I never lived. The birth date reads October 12, 1941. The address is 442 Fairview Avenue, a street I have never heard of. This has to be some kind of mistake, I tell him, my voice steady despite the chaos in my mind. I was born in the 70s. Back when I was a teenager in the late 80s, I was failing geometry and working weekends at my Uncle Ray's garage. That is what we thought initially, Reyes says, pulling up another document. But we have verified this license 3 different ways. It is legitimate. Issued by the state of Pennsylvania DMV in 1988, renewed in 1989, expired after the holder's death in 1991. 2 more police cars arrive, and now there are 8 officers surrounding me. One of them whispers something to Reyes, who nods and turns back to me. Mr. Walker, the partial fingerprint from the 1993 robbery is not just similar to yours. It's a near-perfect match. 13 matching points. That's more than enough to argue it's the same print in any court. But you just said this person died in 1991. How could a dead man rob a bank 2 years later? That is exactly what we are trying to figure out. A white Mercedes S-Class pulls into the parking lot, its headlights cutting through the pre-dawn darkness. I recognize it immediately. Judge Edward Collins steps out, still wearing his evening clothes from whatever country club event he had attended. His silver hair is perfectly styled, despite the hour his expression calculated and cold. Officers, he announces with practiced authority. This man is mentally unstable. I have been tracking him since he made threats against my daughter. I have documentation of his erratic behavior. I never threatened anyone, I say, taking a step forward before 2 officers move between us. Collins pulls out his phone, scrolling through something. 3 weeks ago, you drove past my daughter's house 4 times in 1 day. Last week, you were seen at Megan's school during hours when you have no legal right to be there. You have been calling Alex's dormitory repeatedly, despite a no-contact order. I drove past Karen's house because it used to be my house, too, and I was delivering the last of her mother's jewelry she demanded. Megan's school called me about her college applications because I am still listed as her father. And Alex called me first, worried about his tuition payment that Karen forgot to make. Detective Reyes raises a hand for silence. Judge Collins, how exactly did you know we were here? This was not broadcast on public channels. The judge's composure cracks slightly. I have a scanner application on my phone for safety purposes. This man has been stalking my family. Interesting, Reyes says slowly. Because we used encrypted channels tonight. No scanner app would have picked this up. Collins's face flushes. Perhaps one of your officers notified me as a courtesy. None of my officers know who you are, sir. The tension in the parking lot thickens like morning fog. Reyes shows Collins the old driver's license photo. Judge, do you recognize this man? The color drains from Edward's face so fast I think he might faint. His mouth opens, opens again. Where did you get that? His voice has lost all its courtroom authority. Sir, I need you to answer the question. Do you recognize this man? Collins grips his car door for support. That is Thomas Walker Sr., Karen's uncle Eleanor's brother. My mind races. Karen never mentioned an uncle named Thomas. In 18 years of marriage, through countless family gatherings and photo albums, not once had anyone mentioned Eleanor having a brother. He died in a house fire, Collins continues, his words coming faster now. December 1991. Electrical problem. The whole house went up. Him, his wife Ruth, their newborn son. Tragic accident. Ruth. I say, my voice breaking. My mother's name was Ruth. Everyone turns to look at me. Reyes pulls up another file on his tablet. Mr. Walker. What was your mother's full name? Ruth Parker Walker. She died 10 years ago. Parker was her maiden name. Yes, Ruth Parker. Born in Iowa, moved to Pennsylvania after she married my father. Collins makes a sound like someone punched him in the stomach. That is impossible. Ruth died in the fire. Eleanor identified the bodies. We went to the funeral. Reyes types rapidly on his tablet. Judge Collins, I am going to need you to come to the station. This is now a federal investigation involving potential identity fraud, insurance fraud, and a $5 million bank robbery. You do not understand, Collins says, backing toward his car. Eleanor made me promise. She said if anyone found out, it would destroy everything. Karen does not know. My daughter does not know any of this. Detective, I say, my voice cutting through the chaos. I can prove who I am. My birth certificate, my social security card, my baptism record from Grace Community Church. They are all in a lockbox at Betty's diner. She has been keeping my important papers safe since I started living in my car. Reyes nods, already signaling to his officers. We will go there now. Judge Collins, you are coming with us. This is ridiculous. Collins protests, but his voice lacks conviction. I have court in 4 hours. I need to contact my attorney. You can call from the station, Reyes says firmly. 2 officers flank the judge, not quite arresting him, but making it clear he is not free to leave. The convoy moves through empty streets, my Explorer sandwiched between police cars. The town I have called home for 23 years looks different from the back of a police cruiser. We pass my old shop now with a Fellis sign in the window. We pass the house where I raised my children. Karen's Lexus in the driveway. We pass the church where Megan was baptized, the park where Alex learned to ride a bike. Betty's diner glows warm against the dark morning. She is already inside preparing for the breakfast rush, and her face goes pale when she sees our procession through the window. I watch her hand move toward the phone, probably thinking she needs to call someone, but then she recognizes me in the back of Reyes's car and rushes to unlock the door. John, what is happening? She asks, her voice tight with concern. Are you okay? I need the lockbox, Betty. The one you have been keeping in your safe. She does not hesitate, disappearing into the back office and returning with the metal box I had entrusted to her 3 months ago when I realized I would be living in my car. Whatever this is about, John is a good man, she tells Detective Reyes. I have known him 15 years, never caused trouble, always helped folks out. Inside the box are the documents that define my official existence. My birth certificate issued by Fairview General Hospital, dated April 3, 1974. My social security card, the laminated edges worn from decades in my wallet. My parents' marriage certificate showing Henry Walker married Ruth Parker on June 15, 1972. Reyes examines each document, carefully uploading photos to someone at headquarters. His phone rings almost immediately. You are certain, he says to whoever is on the other line. Run it again. A pause. That is impossible. He turns to me, his expression unreadable. Mr. Walker Fairview General Hospital burned down in November 1972. It never reopened. This birth certificate was issued by a hospital that did not exist when you were supposedly born there. The ground feels unsteady beneath my feet. That cannot be right. My mother showed me pictures of the hospital, the nursery where I was born. Those photos exist, Reyes confirms, pulling them up on his tablet. But they are from the original Fairview General taken before 1972. Judge Collins suddenly lunges for the door, but 2 officers grab him before he can take 3 steps. "You do not understand," he shouts, all composure finally shattered. "Eleanor made me promise. She saved that woman's life. She saved the baby. Everything we did was to protect them. What baby I demand," moving toward him despite the officers between us. What woman Ruth Collins gasps, struggling against the officer's grip. "Your mother. She was Thomas Walker Sr.'s wife. The real Thomas Walker, Eleanor's brother. When the fire happened, everyone thought she died too. But she survived. Barely alive, burned beyond recognition, but alive and pregnant, though she did not know it yet. The trauma had affected her memory. She did not remember. The fire did not remember Thomas, did not remember anything before waking up in Eleanor's guest room. My legs suddenly will not hold me. I sink into one of the diner's vinyl chairs. "You are saying my mother was married to this other Thomas Walker. He was Eleanor's younger brother." Collins continues his words, tumbling out like a confession that has been held too long. A bank executive at First National Bank of Fairview. He had discovered something irregularities in the books. His boss, Mitchell Harding, was embezzling. Thomas was going to testify to the FBI the next morning. The fire, Reyes says slowly, it was not an accident. We could never prove it. The arson investigator was Harding's brother-in-law, ruled it electrical failure. Case closed. Thomas dead. Ruth supposedly dead. Their newborn son supposedly dead. Except Ruth was not dead. Eleanor found her wandering behind the house in shock, barely conscious. The baby was already gone, and everyone believed the rest of Thomas's family line had died with him. No one outside of Eleanor ever knew you survived. So Eleanor created a new identity for her Reyes pieces together. Ruth Parker instead of Ruth Walker gave her a fictional history. Fictional parents, a whole fictional life. She was protecting her, Collins insists. If Harding knew Ruth survived, he would have killed her too. Detective Reyes sets his tablet on the diner counter, pulling up document after document. Judge Collins. "We need the complete truth now." Collins slumps in his chair, suddenly looking every one of his 68 years. "Eleanor and I met in law school. She told me about her brother Thomas on our 3rd date. Showed me pictures of this brilliant man who had risen from nothing to become a bank executive. He was her hero, the one who paid for her education after their parents died." Betty quietly pours coffee for everyone, her hands steady despite the surreal scene unfolding in her diner. The police officers maintain their positions, but they are all listening intently. Thomas discovered Mitchell Harding had been siphoning money through offshore accounts. Collins continues, $5 million over 6 years. Thomas gathered all the evidence, documented everything. The FBI was going to arrest Harding the morning of December 16, 1991. But the fire happened the night before, Reyes states December 15, 1991. The house went up so fast the neighbor said it looked like napalm. Thomas and his week-old son Noah were listed as dead, and everyone assumed Ruth had died with them. Except Eleanor arrived before the fire trucks. She found Ruth crawling away from the inferno. Her body burned, her mind shattered from the trauma. Eleanor made a choice that changed everything. She put Ruth in her car and drove away, leaving everyone to think Ruth died, I say, my voice hollow. Eleanor took her to a private clinic in Maine, paid cash, no records. Ruth recovered physically over 3 months, but her memory never returned. The doctors said the combination of trauma and smoke inhalation had caused permanent amnesia. She did not remember, Thomas did not remember the baby who died. Did not even know she was pregnant with you until the morning sickness started. So Eleanor gave her a new identity, Reyes says, typing notes rapidly. Ruth Parker, orphan from Iowa. No family, no connections. Eleanor created an entire backstory, forged documents that would pass casual inspection. When you were born, she made sure it happened at a clinic that did not ask questions, then created the false birth certificate showing Fairview General. But what about the bank robbery in 1993, I ask. Colin's hands tremble as he reaches for his coffee cup. That was me. I used Thomas's access codes. He had given them to Eleanor for emergencies, never thinking she would need them after he died. Harding had gotten away with murder, literally. He was still running the bank, still stealing. I thought if I could take the money he had stolen, make it look like Thomas had somehow done it, it would force an investigation. You framed a dead man, Reyes says. I planted just enough evidence. One partial fingerprint on a safety deposit box lifted from Thomas's personal effects that Eleanor had kept. I knew eventually technology would advance, databases would connect. I thought when that happened, they would realize something was wrong with Thomas's death. Investigate Harding properly. Instead, you just created an unsolved robbery, Reyes observes. The $5 million went into a trust, every penny. Eleanor used it to pay for Ruth's medical care, your education, your mother's house. When Ruth met Henry Walker at a church function and fell in love, Eleanor made sure they had everything they needed. Henry adopted you, gave you his last name legally, but Eleanor insisted on keeping Thomas as your middle name, said it was to honor family tradition. My father, Henry. He knew I asked. He knew Ruth had amnesia from an accident. He knew Eleanor was helping them financially. He never knew the rest. He was a good man, loved you like his own blood. When he died in that construction accident when you were 12, Eleanor made sure you and Ruth were taken care of. And Karen, I demand. What about your daughter? She knows nothing. When Eleanor was dying, she made me swear Karen would never learn the truth. Said the family had seen enough pain, but she also made me promise to watch over you, make sure you were okay. Is that why you destroyed my life? I shout, standing abruptly. Taking my kids, my business, everything. I was trying to protect Karen Collins, says desperately. When she wanted to divorce you, I panicked. I thought if you fought back, started digging into finances, you might discover the trust, the paper trail. I needed you discredited, beaten down, unable to fight. I never meant for it to go this far. Reyes stands, signaling to his officers. Edward Collins, you are under arrest for bank robbery, conspiracy to commit fraud, identity theft, and falsifying legal documents. As the officers cuff him, Reyes turns to me. Mr. Walker, we will need to verify all of this, but it appears you are the victim of a conspiracy that goes back to before you were born. The fingerprints, I say suddenly. How do you explain the matching fingerprints? Reyes pulls up one final document. There is a condition called adermatoglia. Extremely rare. Family members can share nearly identical fingerprint patterns. You and your uncle. The resemblance is not just coincidence. You are his genetic nephew, and you inherited more than just his name. The news breaks nationally within 48 hours. Judge exposed in 30-year conspiracy, reads the headline in the Chicago Tribune. ABC News runs hourly segments about the fingerprint mystery that solved a cold case. My face, both mine and my uncle's from that old driver's license, appears on every major network. Karen sits across from me at Betty's Diner, the same booth where the truth came spilling out 3 weeks ago. Her hands wrap around a coffee cup she has not touched, her eyes red from crying. Alex and Megan sit on either side of her, our children looking older than their years. Dad, we are so sorry, Megan says, reaching across the table to take my hand. When Mom told us about Grandpa, about everything he did, we could not believe it. All those things he made us believe about you. The anger issues were a complete fabrication, Karen says, her voice barely above a whisper. Dad coached me on what to say, which incidents to exaggerate. That time you raised your voice when Alex's teacher accused him of cheating became you screaming at school officials. The night you came home upset after your mother's cancer diagnosis became a pattern of emotional instability. Alex has not spoken much since he arrived, but now he looks up at me with tears in his eyes. You taught me everything, Dad. How to diagnose an engine problem, how to treat customers with respect, how to work with my hands and take pride in it. and I let Grandpa convince me you were dangerous. I blocked your calls. I ignored your messages. You were manipulated, I tell them. We all were. The FBI investigation reveals 17 other families Edward Collins destroyed during his career. Custody cases where he took bribes fixed outcomes destroyed good parents to win advantage for wealthy clients. Each family receives notification that their cases will be reviewed. Some children, now adults, will finally learn why they lost a parent they loved. Mitchell Harding, 91 years old and living in a nursing home in Nevada, is arrested for the murder of Thomas and Ruth Walker and their infant son, Noah. He confesses within hours, perhaps relieved to finally unburden himself. I knew Thomas would expose everything he wheezes to investigators. The fire was supposed to look electrical. I never knew Ruth survived. My shop reopens on a Tuesday morning. The new owner, who had bought it at auction, returns it voluntarily, saying he cannot profit from what he now knows was theft. My tools arrive in boxes donated back by the people who had purchased them after hearing the story. The diagnostic computer, the Torquay wrench my father gave me. Even the restored toolbox Alex and I worked on together. Karen helps me move back into our house, though we are not reconciling. Too much damage, too many lies between us, even if they were not originally hers. But we are finding a new rhythm as co-parents, as two people who share children and history, if not a future. I found something. Karen tells me one afternoon, arriving at the shop with the storage box from Mom's unit, the one she never let you see. Inside are photographs of the original Thomas Walker. My uncle, the man whose name I carry. He looks exactly like me. Or I look exactly like him. Pictures of him with Ruth, my mother smiling at their wedding. Pictures of him holding their newborn son, my cousin who died in the fire. Pictures of a life erased by greed and violence. At the bottom of the box is a letter sealed with my name on it in Eleanor's handwriting. Inside, her confession and apology. She saved my mother but could not save her memory. She gave us new identities but stolen ones. She protected us but built our lives on lies. She ends with this. You were born Thomas Walker Jr., son of Thomas and Ruth Walker. Your father died a hero trying to expose corruption. Your mother lived but forgot him completely. I gave you both new lives, but I could not give you the truth. That debt falls to you now. I visit their graves, all of them. Thomas Sr., the uncle. I never knew the infant cousin who died at 1 week old. Eleanor, who saved my mother and me but imprisoned us in fiction. My mother Ruth, who lived 2 lives and remembered only 1. Even Henry Walker, the man who raised me as his own, loved me without question and gave me his name when my real father's had been erased. The headstone I commissioned for Thomas Sr. reads, Thomas James Walker, 1941-1991. Truth rises from ashes. Justice delayed is not justice denied. Standing there in the cemetery, I realize something profound. We all carry names and histories we do not fully understand. We trust the stories our families tell us, accept the documents that prove we exist, never questioning the foundation everything rests on. It took fingerprints from a dead man to teach me that sometimes the greatest truth comes from the biggest lie unraveling. My name is John Walker. I was born into a lie, raised in fiction, and destroyed by secrets. But I survived. The truth, when it finally surfaced, set us all free. If you found this story compelling, please share it with others who might need to hear that even the darkest deceptions eventually face the light. Like this video if it touched you. Comment below with your own thoughts about family secrets and hidden truths. And do not forget to subscribe to our channel for more incredible true stories that remind us that sometimes the most unbelievable tales are the ones that actually happened.